Alright, Null's entire Transcendence lore in about 30 minutes or so. Here it goes. It all started back way before all the Steves were created. It goes back to all the humans were created, with Vale Sedalius, and the Vale only being a small part of that existence. So, instead of basically all that, over the centuries, basically a small farmer child, who will now be known as the Eternal Emperor, eventually arises, defeats Vale Sedalius, because at the same time, another character named Aura is also being created to defeat Vale Sedalius. Only he has to take his own deal, and suffers through many cycles. So basically a bootstrap paradox in itself. Eventually, Farmer Boy meets this, cycle, what is it, Aura. Aura is an endless cycle, basically. Who also was made to kill Vale Sedalius by his creators, but ended up not doing so. Ended up talking to Farmer Boy, made a deal with the Farmer Boy, and then the Farmer Boy kills Vale Sedalius. And the Farmer Boy was a human peasant. Now we go on to stage 2. Here goes stage fucking 2. Stage 2.
Yeah, stage 2 out of like 50 million.
Oh, get ready for the next part. So, much later, much later, we have fucking, what's his face? The Eternal Emperor is now sleeping, Vale Sedalius is broken but cannot die. Somewhere trapped somewhere between existence and non-existence, as far as I'm aware. It's very detailedly blurry.
And, during this time the Ethereal Beholder was made.
Yes, the Ethereal Beholder. Boom. We have Ethereal Beholder. He gains Ethereum. Boom. But the basis of his Ethereum was based on the Flow of Existence. The Flow of Existence was also based on Vale, which is another energy source that was also used to create the Eternal Emperor when he dethroned Vale Sedalius. Interject Null's insert character himself. Overlord Null inserts complicated backstory of pain and suffering. Makes a deal with Aura. Starts killing Nulls. The Void actually becomes something of a threat. Null's main character goes around trying to kill the Void as much as possible. And what is it? Next half of this video. Here it goes. So basically, as soon as that happens, basically the Ethereal Beholder eventually creates two children, Generation and Era. Steve.
And then Phoenix down the line.
And then eventually Phoenix down the pipeline, who is Phoenix Steve, who goes into another universe where I believe the Eternal... We'll get to that later.
Yeah,
all right.
Just explaining he misses.
Yeah. Time to get on to the next part. Where was I? Basically, eventually, they eventually have, during the early days of Era and Generation, they meet someone named the Abyss King, who shows up and actually gives them certain knowledge of things and tells them about different colored Steves. Hint, hint, lore, the other stuff. What was I? Yeah, so basically, along the lines after that, it gets a little bit deeper than that. The next thing that happens is that after eventually all that, things get a little bit crazier from down there. Here we go. Then we skip to, what is it? Oh yes, we skip to Professor Blue. A Blue Steve and his Violet assistant, who is extremely gay. Or Violet Yellow for short. Present day, it comes around where, basically after the events that was the past where, Generation Era eventually devolved into, well, horrible things. And also Dr. Abyss, actually the Abyss King was also known to be a fake, being actually Majesty Steve in disguise, who is basically the equivalent of, the equivalent of Mustache Man in our world. Anyways, basically Majesty Steve is brutal and he's mad and he's basically near indestructible since he is a god himself. But he's not very high on the totem pole. Basically he's all chaos and pain and suffering. That's as most gods, but he's a little bit trickier. He eventually corrupts that will be Professor Blue in the past, leading him down his web of madness and science. Then that brings us to, what is it? Part of the past, where they meet Rex. Rex is someone powered by the Veil, but also the son of the Eternal Judge, who is also the right-hand man of the Eternal Emperor. Or, yes, the Crimson, I don't know, the Eternal Judge, yes. So the Eternal Judge's child eventually ends up in Transcendence in the past. And also in the future. He's stuck in Transcendence until the Singularity is born. Boom, the Singularity cannot be born until Generation becomes Revenant. Dune, Revenant becomes Singularity. In order for that to happen, he has to constantly fight his brother, who is Era, who is absorbed by the Void. Yes, he absorbed by the Void, and the Void becomes part of him because of a blade he found in the past in an ancient temple known as the Void Blade or whatever. I don't know exactly what the name of it was.
The Void Blade. You're wrong.
The Void Blade.
Which then he becomes Void Era.
Yes, and becomes Void Era.
AKA
Next.
Reality Null. First name.
Yes, that's right. Reality Null. Then we go on to the final of this entire thing, where, in doing so, as of current timeline, we're doing a flashback episode that's showing that backstory of the past, where in the future, Revenant is currently on his own with all of his sidekicks, who are his helpers in his adventures, gone for the time being. Although we do not know who will return to the future, it is known to be Rex, which is, he's a mixture of the rainbow colors, Veil, and a bit of the Void. Anyways, whatever was it? Part 2, also. Then we go on to the final part of this whole mess, is where my universe flies in, because my universe apparently is slightly parallel connected. And, on top of all of that, sometimes those characters leak over to Random Nonsense, which is a comedy parody made by me, and also, another thing is, apparently there were some great tragedies that happened that weren't shown on screen, as far as I'm aware, and which also somehow led to the creation of Phoenix somewhere later down the timeline, and all I know is that is basically it in a nutshell.
So, you got any questions?
And that was Noel's entire lore, is in as much time as I could make it, as simple as I could make it. Oh wait, I forgot something. I forgot that the eventual part of where the time when Generation is Revenant, because then Revenant turns in before all this, because Era doesn't really go full Void until Era's Revenant is trapped inside of a Void Castle, where eventually my character finds him, which I believe is years after the past. And they are stuck out of time zone with Violet Yellow.
So many, at least a couple years.
Yeah, and then also, apparently, they eventually find Revenant and wake him up. Honestly, he breaks out himself, but at the same time, they also convince him to go to the future, where Netherite exists, because Netherite didn't exist in the past. Although, sometimes we see it in the past, but we don't question it. Time anomaly doesn't make any sense. Anyways, we don't question it. Eventually all that happens, and then Professor Blue actually being mentored by another creation, since he's gone fucking mad a little bit, he's the only thing keeping him going these days is his colleague, Violet Yellow, which ends up getting sucked into another reality. He's not dead, but everyone thinks so. He dies, Professor Blue starts going insane, and basically starts to lose his mind all over again, since he lost his mind in the past, but ends up trying to eventually keeps his calm. But he eventually loses his mind again. Since he's fucking mentally insane, but a smart cookie. And that brings us all to today, where part of him split into two parts, where now part of him is now a god, and the other part of him is still the same, but also fucking insane. Those two are never allowed to be in the same room together, or else a paradox will occur. Also the end of existence. And yeah, that's everything. That's entire Transcendence knowledge, all spilled out on a silver platter as fast as I could. Any questions?
I'm questioning how the fuck he remembers the majority of that lore.
Oh, and then there's Madness Duel, which no one's seen for, I don't know, God knows how long, and his Madness Plague.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Madison.
Also, there's more than one Null, and Overlord Null is hunting them down and trying to kill them all.
Majority of them.
Yeah. I think Madness is on that list too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's everything.